And the audience is sitting there, waiting expectantly with something marvelous is going to happen. She drove supply trucks with a loaded gun during World War II. She made grown men cry in poker games. She got Bea Arthur so angry that America's favorite show had to end. This wasn't the Betty White you thought you knew. Behind that sweet smile was someone who chose her career over having children, who cut family members out forever, who manipulated her image so perfectly that even her co-stars were fooled. Her assistant just revealed what Betty was really doing those final days. Betty White was born on January 17, 1922 in Oak Park, Illinois. Her father, Horace Logan White, worked for the Krause-Heinz Electric Company, a business that was changing how American cities were lit. When Betty was just 2 years old, the family moved to Los Angeles. This wasn't just a family decision. It was part of Krause-Heinz's big push into the West Coast during the electric boom of the 1920s. While most families were struggling through the Great Depression, the Whites lived comfortably thanks to Horace's executive role. They arrived in California right as Hollywood was becoming the movie capital of the world. It's strange to think that Betty, who would one day become a TV icon, was raised in a home powered by one of America's top lighting companies. That same company, now part of Eaton Corporation, still helps light up cities today. By the time she reached high school, Betty was already taking charge. At Beverly Hills High in 1939, she didn't just act in the senior graduation play. She rewrote it. She directed it, starred in it, and assigned roles like a general giving orders. Her classmates jokingly called her Little Napoleon. The play, a sharp comedy poking fun at Hollywood, shocked the audience. Some actual Hollywood stars were there, and they saw themselves being roasted on stage. The local paper called Betty's performance unervingly mature. She was only 17, but already fearless in calling out powerful people with humor. Just 2 years later, when World War II broke out, Betty didn't sit back. She joined the American Women's Voluntary Services and drove supply trucks around rough parts of Santa Monica and Hollywood. She was 19 alone at night, carrying candy, cigarettes, and even a loaded .38 revolver. She logged more than 15,000 miles in service and wasn't afraid to stand up to drunk or aggressive soldiers. In one incident, she physically pulled a man off a younger volunteer. Betty's sweet image came years later, but this tough, gritty side was always there. She'd learned how to handle dangerous situations with confidence and calm. That confidence was shaped partly by her heritage. Her mother, Christine, came from a mixed background, Greek, Danish, English, and Welsh. Christine's Greek family had escaped poverty in Thessaloniki in 1898 and settled in Chicago's Greek town. From her Greek roots, Betty inherited a sense of drama and sharp wit. The Danish influence made her practical and grounded. Her English side brought a love of performance, and her Welsh blood added a rebellious streak. Betty once admitted she often felt like she was playing different versions of herself depending on the setting. A 2010 DNA test revealed her ancestry was 31% English, 28% Danish, 23% Greek, and 18% Welsh. A mix that seemed to perfectly match her unpredictable personality. Before most Americans had even seen a television, Betty was already on it. In 1939, at just 17, she appeared in an experimental TV broadcast in Los Angeles. It reached about 300 homes. She wasn't even supposed to perform. She was just supporting a friend who backed out at the last minute. Betty stepped in and sang on the good ship Lollipop. One reviewer described her performance as surprisingly sophisticated. That kinescope recording burned in a 1971 fire, but the moment was real. Betty had entered TV history before it had even begun. Betty's love life, however, started with chaos. In 1945, she married Air Force pilot Dick Barker. But this wasn't a love story. It was a blunt, physical decision. In her words, "We wanted to sleep together." It lasted just 6 months. After he left the military, Barker moved Betty to his family's chicken farm in Ohio. She hated it. She was expected to kill chickens for dinner. As a lifelong animal lover, she said, no way. They divorced the same year they married. Her next marriage wasn't much better. In 1947, she married Lane Allen, a Hollywood agent. But when he asked her to quit acting and start a family, she left. She didn't want kids. She wanted a career. The divorce came in 1949, the same year. She landed her first big break on TV. That timing wasn't accidental. She joined Hollywood on television in 1949. At first, playing the assistant to host, Al Jarvis. The show aired 5 hours a day, 6 days a week. Most men couldn't handle the grind. Jarvis quit in 1951 and his replacement Eddie Albert left after just 6 months. But Betty stayed. When no one else could keep up, she took over. Soon, she was the only host. She didn't wait to be invited to power. She took it. She turned the exhausting schedule into her advantage, gradually adding scripted scenes that would later form the basis of her own show. In 1952, Betty made another bold move. She formed her own company, Bandy Productions, named after her dog. She partnered with George Tibbles and Don Fader's son, not just to act, but to produce her own sitcom. That show, Life with Elizabeth, launched in 1952, made her one of the very first women to produce a sitcom. She called the shots, writing, producing, and starring. And when NBC picked up her next show in 1954, she refused to cave to pressure from Southern stations who objected to a black performer, Arthur Duncan, being featured. Betty didn't just refuse to fire him. She gave him more airtime. I'm sorry. Live with it, she said. She wasn't just kind, she was strategic. That same year, she won a local Emmy for Life with Elizabeth. It was a huge deal. She wasn't just winning for acting. She was being recognized for controlling every part of the show. This one gave her power. She used it to negotiate full creative control over the Betty White show at NBC. She didn't see awards as rewards. She saw them as tools. Each trophy was another step up the ladder. In 1961, she appeared on the game show Password. It looked like a typical guest appearance, but it changed her life. That's where she met the host, Alan Luton. The chemistry was instant. She said later, we felt like we knew each other. He fell for her fast and proposed within weeks. But Betty, she said no. Again and again. For a whole year, she turned him down. Even when he gave her a diamond ring, she refused it. So when wore the ring around his neck, she wouldn't move to New York. She wouldn't give in. It wasn't coldness, it was strategy. She wanted to stay in control. But on Easter in 1963, something cracked. He sent her a stuffed white bunny with gold leaves in its ears, ruby, diamond, and sapphire earrings tucked inside.